So nice to see everybody. So let's go ahead and sit with the shins crossed. Flex the feet, press the hands onto the thighs, lift the spine up. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Chin lifted, head back. Eyes closed. Keep the thighs flexed as you push your hands down again. Lean your spine back slightly so you put the weight into your hips and not just into your groin and thigh. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, draw the back ribs in, stretch your side rib forward, lift your front rib up, stretch your shoulders down. Let your eyes close. So as you begin your practice tonight, or at this stage of your practice, you might be a person that practices a lot through the day. Take a moment in this quiet time, whether the world around you is loud or busy, or your space is quiet itself. Remember, the quiet time is not just what the world gives you, but it's what you take time to create for yourself. In creating quiet, oddly enough, involves listening. Things that go unheard have a tendency to keep getting louder. We see that in our current situation in the world. If things are not at least listened to, doesn't matter if they're acted upon, but at least listened to, they keep getting louder until at one point that loudness becomes something more. If you may know this about yourself in life, where you've been in a situation where you just keep biting your tongue, not saying something you want to say, or admitting something to yourself that may be true, until the point it just blows up. One of the things the yoga practice gives us is a chance to hear stuff that's a little more than just the surface thought, right? You know, it's a little deeper than, man, this barista at Starbucks keeps getting my name on my cup wrong. It really irritates me. Whatever you've got going on with you, your practice is a chance to listen to yourself and to listen to what's going on in and with your body, so that it does not become something so loud that it, you know, really disrupts your whole life. It's easy to want to not listen because everything seems so loud. But that again goes into lessons about how we prioritize and what we decide is important. At this point, when you get on the yoga mat, to me, you're creating a practice of acknowledging that what you say, what you feel, what you have going on in and with you is important. Because you are your own connection to Great Spirit or oneness or God or whatever it is you're working on. You are your connection to your life you're living. We are not separate from our thoughts. We are not separate from the life lived. So as you go through this practice today, my friends, be aware that what the yoga practice helps you say. What words come to mind, what feelings want to be expressed, whether it's, you know, fatigue, anger, sadness, happiness, joy, poems, limericks, songs, thoughts that may not have occurred to you. Because all of that is stuff you're going through, all of that stuff you're living with. And just as I've talked about before, be aware of the things that want to get you out of the yoga pose immediately, want to get you off the yoga mat. When we get to things that are hard or uncomfortable, you know, distractions all of a sudden seem very important. Nothing is as important in your life as you in this moment. For just this moment, your time on your mat is yours, so you can listen to you, And words may not be spoken from the mouth, but you may hear something in your own head or heart that needs to be said to you and listened to. So listen to yourself. Because learning to listen to your voice ultimately gives your voice strength as a person, maybe as a teacher. And so when your voice is needed in those moments of challenge, you can raise your voice to be heard, so that just as change has to happen, just as we change in the yoga practice, we can create change around us that we can be proud of. It is healthy for all. So just even here for the next few moments, hear your own inner voice, my friends. It may not be very loud, and it may just be complaining, it may just be other things, but hear it for once. No judgment, no critique, just acceptance and listening. Bring the palms together at the chest, let the thumbs touch the sternum. Keep the head lifted. Roll them shortly 3 times and begin. Take a breath. Om. 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 Bow your head. Sleep the essence of yoga inside yourself. Bring your hands into the lap. Let the head rise. The eyes open. All right. So nice to see a couple people sneaking in. It's lovely. So glad to see everybody. All right. Sit on something with your hips, like a bolster or a cushion or a couple folded blankets, anything just to give a little extra height to your hips. And take both legs, feet together, knees wide. Baddha Konasana. Let's start with Baddha. So when you sit into Baddha Konasana, bound angle, it's for the soles of the feet together and the knees are wide. And you can't see because my dog is blocking Tristan's feet. So when you get the feet together and the knees wide, pull the heels close to the groin. And then if you can, shift your hips forward towards your heels a little bit. Put your hands on the side of your bolsters or whatever. Just kind of work your hips forward to help. So we've kind of talked about this pose in the past a little bit. But one of the things that we want to work on is how we can use this pose to create some mobility in the hip, knee, groin, and ankle. Not necessarily in that order, but you know, that's it. So what happens is when we bring the feet together like this, the calf and thigh get kind of pinched together. This is where you're actually going to meet a lot of resistance to the knee and the groin. This is very interesting. When the knee can't rotate properly because of pressure on it, the groin ends up gripping to protect your knee joint. So what you need to do is slide both feet away from you 6 inches or so, just enough that your calf and thigh aren't pressing together super tight yet. Take each hand, grab your calf and thigh on the inside of the leg. And it's not here on the back side, don't care. But on the inside, pull both up. Separate them super deep, like you're trying to separate the flesh of the calf and the flesh of the thigh up and wide, and then use your own leg to pull your heel in. Set that one in place, and then do the same on the other side. Separate the flesh of the calf thigh, pull the heel in close, and then kind of set them in place. And then you're going to get a little difference in the knees and hips here. You can see Tristan, her knees are now much lower to the ground than they were before. And there's a little more ability of the pelvis to tilt. And your knees may not be down super low, but it does actually start to free it up. So when you separate that calf thigh, you make that space, you pull the heel in. The other thing that it does is allows your pelvis to rotate. There's the tilt of the pelvis forward towards the groin, anterior, or there's the tilt of the pelvis back towards the room behind you. That's posterior. When we pull that calf and flesh out and the knee can rotate properly, that allows us to go anterior. That allows us to go forward deeper into these poses because it allows the pelvis to rotate and the spine to go forward. This is where we get a lot of relief to the groin and to the hip. When the knees are locked up, and I mean locked up as in they can't rotate, it removes our ability to rotate the pelvis, right? Because everything grips up to protect the knee joint. So from here, just even for a few moments to warm up with it, push the foot together very hard. Push the heel together, the big toe joint together, and the pinky if you can. And when you push them together, feel what muscles you activate to do the pressure. Because if you are like me, you like to flex your groin and your inner thighs and kind of squeeze in, like you're trying to pinch your thighs in towards each other. That is not correct. This is something I have to correct in myself a lot. You have to flex the upper part of the quad here, that upper long thigh. So try to flex your thigh muscle so you feel it pulse and lift, and keep that, and then push your feet together. It moves it to the outer hip. This is a very active pose. The knees do not get pressed down. Down happens as your groin, knee rotate. But it's about flexing that quad, that large thigh muscle, so you feel a slight lift of the knee. This is taking pressure off the knee joint, and then you push the feet hard in. This will actually make you feel like you can move your pelvis easier now too, whether posterior or anterior, back or forward. Right? Feel something? She feels something. So as you push the feet together, the heel, the big toe joint, the pinky toe as best you can, flex the thigh, keep your thighs flexed. There's a lot of adjustments in the hips and in our back that seated poses can give us, but we have to keep the legs engaged and moving in a certain rotation. Any of the bent knee poses involve the thighs rotating externally. So if this is the center line of the body, right, from the upper center line of the groin, the thigh is rolling away from that point. That's the external rotation of the quad. There are very few seated poses that do internal rotations. They exist, but usually the foot's behind you and in a different form. So work the feet, work the heels, flex those quads. So it's not you gripping the groin. You're not trying to push your thighs in. You're trying to flex the quad so you feel the pulse of the quad, the muscle of the leg active, because the more you learn to flex that thigh, the more that thigh muscle naturally rotates the thigh back. Before we were all moved online, there was a modification that I would do where I would put a person's back to the wall. Some of you've seen this, and sit in front of them and push their shins towards their body so their thighs have to roll backwards. So we're going to see what we can do with a strap here in a minute, or a belt. So before we get to that, kind of think about where it is so you can make it quick to grab soon. Think about even though you're pressing the feet hard together, one way I described this before or done it is I try to pull my thighs apart away from each other while I push my feet together. It makes your femur bone or pelvis sit down into your support more. So your thighs are trying to pull apart as you try to push the feet together. And as Tristan's been here, her knees are going a little lower, and I can see some of your knees are starting to work a little bit. So the thigh flexes, like your legs are trying to pull wide, but you're pushing the feet together. So it's your thigh muscles and your inner groin muscles working at the same time. You may not get that immediately, but it's like a next step to think about. All right. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to grab a strap. If your strap can be in a loop, that's great. Does not have to be in a loop, but if it can be in a loop, that's great. So Tristan's going to come closer so you all can see this. Move the camera a little closer to her too. We're getting fancy now. We're on the move. High production value yoga class. I've got a loop here. It's not a very big loop. It's maybe 2.5, 3 foot long loop, somewhere in that range. We want to make the thigh muscle rotate this way from the front near the groin back towards the hip. So whatever we do with this strap, it needs to move the flesh of the thigh that way. So I like to take one end of the strap under the thigh to the inner leg. So it looks like this. It's not across, it's just around her thigh. It's not touching her shin or anything. I take the end of that strap, usually with the buckle, through the loop, and then pull it tight. Like this. So you see that strap is the crisscross point is at her inner thigh. So if I pull on that strap back, watch her leg, it pulls open and she about slaps me. You didn't see that part. So each of you can grab a hold of the strap, and we're going to do one side at a time. Don't worry, you don't have to have two straps on, but if you do, you can play with this later. The action is with the knot point of the strap on your inner thigh, fairly low, pull up and then pull back and down. So it's up, so you're rotating the thigh up, back, down, and then lift. Your other hand can go behind you. Try not to stick your chest and groin forward, but keep your spine up. Push your feet together as you do this. What are you feeling, Tris? Share with class. Her outer hip flexors are having to rotate and work now. When we sit a lot, they tighten up. When we rotate them like this, they will stretch and open. All right, start doing it to yourself. Take your loop under your leg, put the back end through the front, and pull it tight. Good. Good, Pradama. Move the knot to the inside of your thigh. There you go, Micah. You got it. Tristan, you're getting it. Good job. Ryan, you're working your way there. I see it. Good. Good. Caitlin, pull that tight. Pull it up so you feel the flesh, because when you pull up, what you're doing is you're lifting the inner thigh flesh up to make the inner thigh rotate, stretch the groin. When you pull back, you're rotating the thigh bone back, opening the inner groin. And when you pull down, you're working the outer hip flexors. So you're working the whole circumference of the femur bone. Try not to lean forward when you do this. Sit back. Pradama, move the knot to the inside of the leg. Not up here on your upper thigh, inner thigh near your calf. I don't know. Make sure the strap is fairly close to the hip. It does not go right on the groin, but it's not near the knee. It's closer to the mid to inner thigh, closer to the hip. Do the best you can. You may not get it the first time. That's all right. So you pull up, back, down, and lift. And just push your feet together. It's the same action. But now the strap is starting to teach the thigh and hip bone the ability to rotate. Give you a few more seconds to play with this. You can learn on the other side. We'll do it a couple times on each side. I don't care. See, this is what I talk about. It's very hard to teach prop yoga unless you are really paying attention, because I'm going to call some of you, I'm not going to name names, but some of you started to do it before I explained it. You know who you are. Listen to your teacher first. All right, do the other side now. I'm going to talk you through it again. I'm happy to talk as much as y'all need. So remember, you take a loop or some loopish kind of shape, goes under your leg. So Tristan's left thigh, right thigh, whatever thigh you want to do. So I've got the loop like this, right? Both ends. I'm going to take the end on the outside of the hip through the inside loop. Pull all the slack through my 12-foot. This way, you see this cross point, so that if I pull this way with the end of the strap, it's going to move the flesh of her thigh. So we sink it towards your hip, pull it tight. So you pull up, back, down. There you go. And push. You just keep pulling on that strap the whole time. You're pushing down on that strap so it keeps all that rotation. Your other hand goes on your bolster or a block or whatever so you can lift your spine up. Because it's the tendency when we rotate that thigh to want to lean forward. This is our groin and low back wanting to do the work. The more you put your weight in your sits bones on the back side of your body, the more work that's going to do into the hip itself. And that can be hard to lean back. The tighter our hips and groin are, the more we want to lean forward. In the camera. Sure. There you go. Looks like some of you got it better now. Nice. Yeah, I like the smiles some of you got on your face. You paid attention and you learned. Good. So work that rotation and then lift, just work on the lift of the spine and the body. And then you hold. Flex the thighs, push the feet together. Yeah. Same on this side. This is the other side, Tris. Nice. More on the other side. So for Tristan, she has more on her left leg, more intensity than on the right leg. So that tells me her hip extenders and the rotators on her left side are tighter. So that's part of where her pelvis leans. And this is how her spine gets adjusted. That's where her twist is. And when we have one side twisted more than the other, or twisted at all, and the other side's normal, it twists the spine slightly. And this is where a lot of back fatigue comes from. The idea of what scoliosis is, right? The twist and the curve. So one side overworks more than the other. So by doing this rotation, even though it may not feel super hard for a lot of you, flex your thighs. So you add the physical element, the active element of being in the pose, and lift. And then you just get stuck sitting here for a while. And it's very hard sitting in these poses for a long time, right? But remember what the theme of the meditation was. Listen. When I've studied with teachers, whether in Vedanta Indic tradition and yoga tradition, or Native American culture, the one thing that always gets said is when you're sitting, listen, not just to me. Like listening to the teacher is step one. Congratulations, you all signed up, you're all here. Step two, listen to what's going on in your own body. Is there confusion? Is there ache? Is there pain? Is something wanting to get you off the mat? Is this hard? Is this not what you want right now? Like listening to yourself is important, right? Because once you're listened to, it keeps it from becoming a bigger problem. Huh. All right. We're going to change it up, but we'll do the other leg again. So take the strap off your right leg, stretch your right leg straight. So your right leg's going to be straight, more or less like Janu Sirsasana. And you can do Janu Sirsasana with the same strap, and it adds a very interesting element to open your hip and back. So you're going to bend your left knee, put your left foot to your inner right thigh. Kind of the leg in the form of half the bottom. Since they know now, they've learned. Thank you. So once you've got your right leg straight, your left foot to your inner right thigh, put your strap around your left thigh the same way you did. That helps you do the rotation. So it goes under your thigh. You've got the two parts, the back part and the front part. Front part's on your inner thigh. You put the back part through the front part, pull it tight. This is also very useful if you need to know how to tie a tourniquet. Because this is what you do.
So Dustin,
yes.
Is like seated like in front of, almost to the edge of the blanket or towards the center? And the
edge. So your thighs are off. You want to sit on the edge with your sits bones so your thighs are hanging off entirely. You don't want your hamstring pushed up. If your hamstring gets pushed up, it pushes on perineum and other stuff that there's scientific reason of, you know, it grips the perineum improperly. It pushes your groin muscles together. If you want to get all meditative about it, your perineum should be free so you can lift it in the correct bandha, but that's a different conversation. All right, so right leg straight, left thigh's hooked. Pull up, back, and down on that left thigh. Yeah, just like that. And then right hand stretches forward and reaches for the foot. Straight right arm, straight chest, straight spine. Push back with your left hand, pull your left ribs forward to equal your right side. Ooh, how's that feel? This isn't about getting your chest down into the full like chest and head on shin. I'm not wanting that. I want you to work more. How much can you rotate your left thigh back to the room behind you? Because with the foot touching the thigh, this is what we call like the simple version of the pose. Part one. Part two is a very much more open rotation. So the more that you work on rotating that thigh and lifting your spine up, that gives you a chance to release your back by flexing your left thigh and pushing your thigh bone down as hard as you can on both legs. How's that feel? Opens your hip. This isn't about like extreme stretches. This is about getting that thigh to rotate and then lifting your spine up as you're doing so, which is very opposite of what happens when we sit a lot. Sorry, we're just being distracted by our dog being cute over there. Good. A few more seconds. Rotate the thigh. Bend your right elbow just even a little bit out, but don't pull down. Pull your chest up more. That bend of the elbows to help you flex the chest muscles and pick up your core, pick up your ribs, pick up your head, and outward. The left arm pulls against that strap. Right arm pulls forward. And then take a moment, take a few breaths, and then listen. Listen to what's going on inside the body. All right, come on up, switch legs. So this external seated rotative pose, almost all the seated yoga poses involve some level of that rotation. When your knees are bent, I should say. Straight legs gets different. So left leg straight, pull your right foot towards your groin, put the strap around your leg. Under your leg. Put the buckle through your left hands and now pull it all the way through. That's correct. All right. Right hand pulls up on the strap, pulls back on the strap, pulls down on the strap. Left arm reaches out and grabs your big toe. Activate the pose. Pull your left heel up into your groin. See, it's the fun. Switch your legs up, Shubi. Your strap should be around your right thigh, not your left thigh. Did you already do that leg bent knee? You got it, friend. You're learning. Good switch. Reach the right hand, reach the hand out of the straight leg and grab that toe. Rotate that thigh, pull up, back, down. Stretch the chest out. And out and up. You're lifting to a lift, you're going for a lifted angle, not a curve down. That lifted angle up is much more important because you curve over the spine too much. Thinking that your head needs to be on your chin to be enlightened, you will find that it's not going to be comfortable. How's that feel? It's on the left leg. Active. Push your hip down. Good. If you want to bend the elbow just a little so you can feel that shoulder pull and you can lift that chest bone up, do so. That's good. So there's forms of Janu here that are not about how deep you get down into the forward fold. There's a form of it that is just the straight lift of the body and you flex all three bandhas at once. Very interesting, very energetic work. Also feels really good on the sacral plate and low back. You know, metaphysically, they talk about being the seat root of power. First chakra thing. But when you activate those muscles that are the bandhas, scientifically, they lift the lower spine, release pressure off your sacral plate. Very neat stuff. We're kind of working in a variation of this now. What we're doing is I'm kind of teaching you the form of it. Then we'll get to the whole big thing as we continue. And again, take a few minutes as you take a moment here, breathe, listen to what's going on. Look at what wants to distract you instead of staying focused on your body. Cute dog in the room, cats, family, worries, right? Me. And you focus on what's happening in your muscles, you creating the form more and listening to what your body says more than say, you know, my voice even. A few more seconds. A couple more deep breaths. All right, bring your body up. Switch your legs again. So with one leg straight, this time, pull your left ankle up on top of your right thigh bone. Pull the left ankle or whatever bent knee you're doing. So right leg straight, left knee bent. Pull that left ankle up on your thigh bone as close as you can to your hip joint. You're going for the deeper form where the hip gets the greater work. Same action, put the strap around your thigh of the bent knee so you can rotate it. Buckle on that. There you go. Buckle through. Nope. That's good. Don't have to pull all the way. So once you get your leg strapped, ankle in place, pull up, gently pull back so your foot stays on your thigh, and then pull down, trying to rotate that thigh bone more, and then stretch forward and reach for your right big toe. If you can't reach for your right big toe, I like to use the leftover bits of strap, hook your foot with it and pull. But she can get her whole big toe. If you can't reach the big toe, just even reach for your shin, grab a hold of it, and pick your spine up as high as you can. Use your right hand pulling on that flesh to help move you. How does that feel? And open. That rotation of the thigh, though, is the bigger effect. It's not pushing your knee down. Don't try to push your knee joint down. Rotate your thigh. Use that strap to twist the flesh. That's the more important thing. And then as you go forward and hook the foot, lift your spine up, because what you're doing is you're pushing your femur bone down, both of them, and you're lifting your spine up out of your hip. All the pelvic muscle that gets tight and compressed over time is getting spread open. This is very important to do consistently, especially practicing it while seated, because it actually it gives our organs a chance to cycle a little easier. It also teaches us when we sit during the day to lift more naturally. One of the things that gets talked about, right? The old saying that, oh, if your back hurts, you might have a weak core, you're not keeping your core engaged. Most of us, when we stand, our cores are very engaged. You literally have to have it engaged to stand up. When we sit, though, boom, right? We can really find ourselves compressing down. But what you're doing here is not crunching the core, but you're learning to use the pelvic muscles and the abdominals to lift the spine better. This is a very subtle thing. So rotate that left thigh up, back, and down. Right hand's grabbing a hold of the foot or shin, whatever you got, lifting the spine, going for height of your spine up. You're going for a long incline rather than, you're pulling your chest. You're trying to straighten by going down. Straighten it by lifting up. You feel it open. And then you get to sit here, because it's interesting that while standing poses, you burn out in a few minutes. This can be intense for different reasons, but you're not going to muscularly just burn out on this. Not with a little bit of practice. What you're going to do is get really bored. I get really bored with these, trust me. But that's my own distractions, not wanting to pay attention to what I'm doing in the pose. So take a moment, check in. What's distracting you right now? Things on your wall, and why? Why are those the distraction rather than paying more attention to what's happening to you in this moment? Because remember, pain or anything our body gives us sensation-wise is our body trying to tell us what happened. How often do we ignore that until it hurts, until we cannot hear it any longer, we cannot ignore it any longer, right? The meditative practice, that focused state, dhyana, that sharpness, comes from really staying in it, staying not just in the pose for a long time, but if you're in the pose for 10 seconds, your focus is in that pose for 10 seconds. not closing your eyes. Stay in with you. Use your eyes to help guide you first. But how present, how long can not just you be in the pose, but how long can you be so mentally and emotionally present in your pose? That's really the practice. I think ultimately that's one of the things that Mr. Engar was trying to share the most, is not just the physical health benefits, even though that was how he talked about. A lot of his later writings really involved how much you stayed in it as far as your mental focus. That's why he never let people close eyes in his class. You could do that at Savasana. That was it. All right, let's switch sides. So we've been here for about 40 minutes though, and you've done 4 poses, 5 poses maybe? 3, if we're gonna be real honest. So really what the effect each time you do a side, it's gonna change. And we're gonna go back to Bada at all the end of this so you can really feel what's going on. Here. Buckle on the back. So right ankle up on your left thigh, get your strap around your thigh. Don't worry if you find it hard, if you're getting any of the rotation. Remember, it's not about doing the modification perfectly. It's about, can you be in the pose presently? That's really the lesson here. So if you're having anxiety about, oh, I wish I knew if I was doing this right. Are you still on the mat? Are you still trying? Then you're doing it right. So get your strap around your thigh. If you can feel the strap move the thigh, you're doing it right. Get the right ankle up on the thigh. You may be doing it better than the way I teach it. That's the beautiful part about this practice, is one day as I teach all of you, one of you's you're gonna come to me with like, Dustin, I came up with this modification. It'll be the most brilliant thing I've ever seen in my life. Because all of you are brilliant. It's your daily boost. You're all brilliant. So ankle across thigh, pull the ankle close, pull up first. You want to not just start jerking down on that thigh, because that's just pushing your knee down. Grip the groin like we talked about, or I talked about earlier. Pull up on the thigh, back so you feel the skin and muscle move, and then down. And then you go forward, because you're setting that femur bone. You're flexing your left thigh, then you're stretching up, setting that femur bone. This will help your low back immensely. Who has a question? No. Oh, I thought, okay, thank you. If they have a question, they mute them, unmute themselves. So while you're all stuck here, focus on your pose. Rotate the thigh. Flex the quad. Lift. Find some space to move all parts of your body into. And is there somewhere gripping that's even a distraction? And I don't mean gripping that you're putting some stretch on it, but are you shrugging your shoulder to your neck? Are you pushing the tongue to the roof of your mouth? Are you adding to the distraction? There's that old saying, I'm my own worst enemy. I'm my own worst critic, right? Critique does not just have to come from someone, else, or even your own, your own mind saying you're good or bad at something. It can also come from that part of yourself that doesn't want you to look at something. It can be critical. Critical feelings exist. So just a few moments, lift, check in with what's trying to pull you out of it. And so you're in the pose now. So if you're in the pose for only the next 20 seconds, can you stay in the pose mentally 20 seconds? You okay there, Shuba?
Justin, can one side feel different than the other?
Very much so. Because what happens is when we sit crooked, or we have like a back injury or hips, or one hip's tighter than the other, it can make our back stretch and our hips stretch differently. So that is very normal to feel. It's good that you're getting aware of that, because that lets you know that this is opening and adjusting that side. Good awareness. Good. I'll mute you. Good job. Thank you. Good question. I saw you rubbing your back. I just want to make sure you were You're okay. Tristan is feeling it differently. She affirms that she's with you. I'm sure others are too. Yeah, I see some nods. Don't worry, you're not alone. Remember, we may not be in the same room together, but you do not suffer alone. Always Tristan. Like, you should all spend the last 3 minutes, like, I'll, leave the room over 3 minutes. You can all go, oh my God, that guy killed me. Can you believe how mean he is? So she'll be, you got, the strap should be, yeah, there you go, friend. You got it. Last few seconds, everybody. Stay in it. The jokes aside, all that aside, the charisma of your teacher or lack thereof, in my case, should not be the focus. The focus is what you're getting in the pose. How I transmit it doesn't matter. Feels different. Now you see the intensity of this. All right, take a breath. I said take a breath. I didn't come out. Yeah, there you go. Breathe. All right, now you can come out. Good job. All right. Watch Tristan for a sec. We're going to go for the deeper version of Janushirasana. This is slightly different than the very first version, and then we'll go. So come off that bolster. So just watch Tris for a second. I'm going to have Tristan turn slightly to her right so you can all see her from a full angle. So both legs start straight in Janu. Scoot back about 5 inches. So Janu is not the foot touching the inner thigh. The deeper form of it is about, can it rotate the hip? So Tristan's going to do her left leg first, this leg closest to the camera so you can all see what I'm going to ask. She's going to use her hand, grab the inner knee, pull up highly so it moves the flesh, but when she pulls the left heel in, it does not go to the thigh. The heel pulls back very far. The whole hip shifts backwards. So her left heel comes towards her own inner left thigh. There's no foot touching the thigh. This is actually the form of the pose where there's a slight twist to the pelvis, because then when she stretches over with her left side, it's a very deep extension like this. This left thigh is way far back and keeps pushing back. My teacher, Gabriel, would come by and put his foot right here on my thigh and push harder, rolling it. Very common for him to do. And she says it feels amazing. So I'm sorry if you don't have someone in your house to lean on your hip, but you got a strap. So we're going to change the adjustment slightly. So last couple seconds, watch, put the strap on. You're going to put the strap on your left thigh the same way you've been doing it all day, or at least all of this class. Back to the front. You want to have your loop such a way that you can have part of it go behind your back. The reason for this is we're going to switch what hand is holding it. So she's got her strap hooked, right? She pulls her foot to her thigh. Right. And then the strap goes behind the back so the right hand can reach back and grab it. So her right hand goes close to her sacral plate. Watch her for a few more seconds. She pulls back and down, and then her left arm reaches for her leg. So this moves the shoulder back. So you see she's got her hand back here pulling on that strap to rotate, and the left arm is the stretch. How's that feel? It just feels good. All right, go now. Try. Figure it out. Fail beautifully. Good, Jaya. Pratima, right hand on your sacral plate. The right hand, the hand that's behind you, should be near your sacral plate. It's not hanging on your right hand. Left hand, I don't care. Just put it behind your back near your butt. Don't put it, I don't want to see right hands near your hip. Yes. Well, I also can put body weight into it. I don't want to put that. So we'll do it to you later. So your right hand pulls on that strap. Left hand holds the leg and lift your chest up. Go for straight spine. Don't curl down. Go for stretching your spine out at that line. Even if it's a little bit. Even if your body, like if you're so tight that you only come forward like 2 inches, That's a great 2 inches. Don't worry about like having to hold your left foot, but your left arm is reaching. Your left ribs are reaching. Good, nice rotation. Good to see. Woo! There you go, Ryan. Reach for it, brother. You feel that, huh? Good, Caitlin. So it's not a full twist. So like once your chest bone is facing your right thigh, don't twist past it. Try to line up your chest bone with the center of your right thigh bone. It's not about continuing the twist. This isn't like revolve triangle or something. There you go, Shuba. Good. It's hard. It's very hard on the hips and back, but it will be all right. If you find it very hard to fold forward, feel free to put something under your hips now. Bolsters, blankets, a little bit of height is very useful for helping the forward extension. So Shuba, if you have a pillow or something to sit on or a blanket, give yourself some support, friend. There you go. Couch cushions rule for this stuff. We could have a workshop. I've been asked to do a workshop. I don't know what it's going to be at. Maybe it's just Tristan follows me around with the iPhone and we like film. All right, Dustin's going to do a random yoga pose off of a house prop. Here's yoga with a pot and pan that he had. I could do a lot of yoga in the kitchen. Maybe that would be the fun class. That would be a fun video to do. I don't know if that's a good class. All right, take a few breaths. You've started to learn it. Come on up. Switch your legs. Stretch your left leg out. Get your strap off. Pull your right leg open. So the real test. Did you get all distracted when I'm telling a dumb story? Story doesn't matter. Your pose matters. Pull your right knee back so your right heel comes towards your right inner groin as best you can. It's going to feel like the hip twists. It does. Quickly, get to it. Don't worry about Tristan. She'll get there. So the left hand goes behind your back to grab the strap, pulls back and down like you're trying to take your hand towards your tailbone. Your right arm stretches out, grabs the foot, grabs the shin, grabs the whatever. But you start that movement. There you go, Shubha. You got it. Good, Pratima. Try not to over twist, Caitlin. Try to line up your rib cage with your thigh. There you go. Yeah, I know the twisty part. There you go, Ryan. Reach for it, buddy. Lift that heart up and stretch that shoulder. Good, Lena. Good extension. Keep that left thigh flexed, Micah. You got it. Thank you. Use the straight leg as a strong muscle. So you feel how the right hip's being rotated and the femur bone's being pulled down. Think about your left thigh flexing and pushing down like the right one. So one of the interesting things is that when you're doing this with your arm behind your back like this, pulling on the strap, it helps open your shoulder. It's really good for releasing your neck. So don't tuck your chin down. Keep your head up. Use your head as part of the extension because your neck is part of your spine, right? Straight spine, stretch the neck out to be part of that extension. That'll help release your shoulders. Pull down with that left one. Extend that right one. Good for your shoulder blades, the muscles under them. Take a breath or two. Take 3. Kind of check in with yourself. You've been here for a while. You've been in the physical pose for a while. Have you been in the mental pose for a while? Right? You want to talk about how yoga helps calm our minds. That doesn't mean get into a physical pose and then start, worrying about grocery lists or numbers. It means, can you put yourself in the pose physically and mentally? Can you listen to your body? A couple more breaths. Through the nose. All right, bring your body up. So for a moment, take your straps off, send them to the side. They've done their work. Bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide into Baddha Konasana again. So can you integrate any of the past work into what we started with? So pull your heels close, move the flesh of the calf and thigh, get that rotation started, right? You just experimented for about an hour, rotating that flesh, rotating that muscle. Once you pull the heels in, you've rotated, move the calf and thigh out, move the hips close, and just lift this one. Push your feet together, and can you feel that same flesh flex and then rotate it on its own? You can even take your hands onto your quads near your thigh bone. Don't put it near your knee. Only touch your flesh of your thigh. Use your fingers, drag the flesh back and down, like you're spreading and pressing that down, and lift your spine up. Here you go. Feel it, huh? Use the hands to spread that flesh. Now flex your thighs to help do it and lift your spine up. Now, if you could keep that, then all the twisting, forward folds, backward bends would be off of a very stable pelvis and hip. So for a second, keep pushing your hands into your thighs, spread the flesh, stretch forward as far as you can with your hands on your thighs. You may not go far, but it will be a very long stretch. Few seconds. Already done a lot. If you have 2 yoga straps at home, practice later where you hook each strap around the thigh like we have been the whole time and use them both to pull and traction back. Just fun stuff like that. Bend the elbows so when you push down, you're not shrugging your shoulder to your neck. Bend the elbows like they're pointing back behind you. Tristan's doing a really good job of modeling that. Pull the elbows in a little bit and just fold forward. How's that feel? All right, up you go. Lay back. If you can lay back in Baddha Konasana with the feet together, knees wide, do so. Prop your knees up with something. Prop them up with blocks, bolsters, pets, pillows, pots and pans. Get some height to your knees. But when you lay down, scoot your hips towards your heels, pull your heels towards your hips. Get all the same stuff. Tuck your buttock. Then lay back, close your eyes. You made it. You survived. Feet together, knees wide, Baddha Konasana. Knees supported. So Supta Baddha, passive in the restorative sense. But here, my friends, this is a pose you've been doing all day or all the class. Here is something you're intimately familiar with now. Can you let that same intimacy not give you the permission to disconnect from it? Intimacy and comfort does not mean you pay less attention. You have intimacy on some levels and comfort with your friends, but that means you care about them more. You may spend a little more time paying attention to them. Treat yourself with that same love. So as you're here, don't try to force it. right? Now the restorative practice is about feeling it without any pressure, any action. To really listen to it and to yourself, totally open to what's being shared. Because whatever comes from this is you and yours. I'm going to shut up in a moment. But if you feel yourself forcing or gripping, or trying to fight something, that's probably a part of you asking for something that's not being given. Adjust it. Maybe that means let your knees go a little higher. Maybe that means you adjust your hip or back. And if it's mental or emotional, listen. Give yourself permission just to listen. So for the next few minutes until I ring the bell, all that comes up is totally you. All that comes through is your wisdom, your experience, and joy. Or at least I share my joy to share this time with you, to give you a chance to hear yourself. And rest, my friends, and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Slowly increase the depths of your breathing. Begin to awaken the body, opening, closing the hands, pointing, flexing the feet. Bring knees to the body, roll to the right, slowly up you come. All right, so nice to see everybody. Namaste.